Welcome to another training video in the eManage VMS Cloud training series. For this video, we're going to go through how to add machines to the cloud. So typically when you start your business, you may not know what locations you have, and you may not know all the products that you're going to be using yet, but typically you do know what machines you're using and how many of them you have. So the machine section of the navigation panel is the very first thing. And we're going to use this section to add machines into our cloud. So I'm going to start by clicking on the machine section to expand my options. And in my options, I have an option to go to my machine list. So go ahead and go to your machine list. And if you have not entered any machines yet, your list is going to look like mine, which is blank. There are no machines that showed up here in my list. The search windows or the search lists do not allow me to add information directly into the cloud. They're going to be used for searching and sorting and filtering the data. However, every one of the lists that you open up all have a search bar with this group of 4 buttons right here. And one of the buttons has this plus sign, and it is what allows you to add new items to the list. So there's also a button here in the button bar called Add Machine. These two buttons do essentially the same thing. So it's just a matter of which one you get used to using to add new things to your list. So we're going to start by clicking on our Add Machine button to add a new record to our machine list. And when we do that, it opens up an edit window. So the edit windows are windows similar to this one that give you fields where you can insert the information into your cloud. So we're going to go through each one of these fields and kind of do a little bit of explanation about what they're used for. Now the first one is the machine name. It's required, has an asterisk by it, and the machine name is something that gets used on reports and in other areas of the software to identify the machine. So you want to give your machine a name, and you want to make it a unique name. And there are several strategies to naming your machines. If you know the location that machine is going to be placed, you could put part of the location name in for part of the machine name. Or you could do what I've done here, and I just put the model of the machine and part of the serial number, for example. It doesn't matter how you want to name your machines. You can always go back and change the name if you need to, if you don't like the way you've named them in the first place. So just some kind of an identifier so that you can identify what that machine is. Then you can give it a serial number and document what that is. Then you can also document what the key number is. If there is a specific key that you use when you open this machine up to service it, you can put what that key is there. Now, if your machine has a card reader, the eDevice ID and the model are critical to put in correctly. The eDevice ID is the serial number of the card reader. So if there's a card reader in there, you want to get that serial number and use that serial number here in the eDevice ID. So you put that serial number there. That way, as transactions come into your software for that card reader in that machine, your software is able to match up which machine that is in your list of machines, where that machine is located, and the products that are in it. And then it can link that information together and begin to keep track of your service history for that machine and compute machine inventories for you and give you all of those robust tools for doing remote management. So that all connects up using that eDevice ID, the serial number of your card reader. Then likewise, the model number will help your software map your columns correctly. So for example, if I have an E port in my machine, whenever a vend takes place, the only thing that E port knows is that on a certain date and time, a certain amount of money came into the machine and a certain motor turned in the machine. And that's the only information that it is able to collect. And by motor in the machine, it doesn't necessarily know that that's a B4 or an A1. It recognizes that that's coil 0C31 or 0427. And so that is an unmapped value that the E port receives for the coil, and that's what it transmits. Now, if you have mapping turned on with USA Technologies, they can convert that code for you into the more readable coil, and then it gets translated to coil A1 or B4. If you don't have USA Technologies mapping turned on, then your Toucan software can also do that mapping if it knows what the model of the machine is. So we'll go ahead and drop that down. And HY900 is our only option because all of the mapping work with that particular model of machine. So I'll go ahead and pick that one. Then if my transactions are not mapped with USA Technologies, Toucan will still be able to map those so that on my reports for a coil, I'll actually see C10 or D5. Then type of machine is where I can specify if it's the compact unit or the entree unit. Go ahead and say compact. Purchase date. This is where you can document the date that you purchased your machines for tax purposes, as well as documenting what the price is. And you can record who you purchased them from, who the salesperson was, or who it was that helped you to find and to purchase those machines. So we've got our machine information in here. We can go ahead and save it. And that is simply how you add machines to your list. So now our machine shows up in our machine list for us. Okay, now that we have something in our list, we have an edit and a delete button next to it. So to edit this machine, if we want to change the name because we don't like how it's named, or give it more information, we can just click on our edit button and it pulls up our edit window, and from here we can make the changes that we want to make. We can go ahead and add notes to this machine so that over time we're able to tell it, or able to keep track of perhaps a maintenance history. So you can keep track of notes and other things about your machine here in the notes section, and you can add as many notes as you want. Just keep adding and clicking that note button. Okay, now we'll go ahead and save these changes, and those get saved. And now over time we may decide that we want to delete some machines from our list of machines. To do that, we can just use the delete button, and that will delete that machine as long as that machine is not currently located at a location and in a working location. The software will allow us to delete it. Here up in the list, we can see that we've got our name for our machine. If this machine was located at a location, the location name would show here for us, and we would see that. So you can quickly identify the machines that are located from those that are not, by those that do or do not have a location name. Then we have serial number, we have the type, the model. All of these fields are searchable so that we can filter our list of machines if we want to. Coils is 0. Because this machine is not yet located, there aren't any coils for it. You notice when we go back into our edit window, there was no place to specify the number of coils for a machine. We will do that when we locate the machine at a location, and that is when we can specify the number of coils that we have in the machine. And that's simply because we can always reconfigure a machine if we need to, and replace the trays or add additional coils and do some custom configuration. So it's only when a machine gets placed at a location that we can identify what the coils are. And at that point in time, this number will change to indicate what the number of coils are for the machine at that particular location. We also have the serial number, whether or not the machine is active. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed or not. We're going to go back into our edit window. Our active indicator is right down here, just a little checkbox. If we inactivate this machine, it still stays in our database, doesn't get deleted. But the machine will not show up in our list of machines when it comes time to locate machines. So it's sort of a way of deleting the machine out of our software without actually deleting it. And that's that active indicator right there. So if I save that as being inactive, now our active indicator goes to no on our search list. Now we have our key number that we put in. And if we would have put in any purchase information, that would show up here. Now, as we make changes to data in our software, Toucan is able to track when we make those changes, and if there's multiple users in our account, it'll track who made the change. So in this case, it lets us know when this machine was created originally, and if it's ever been modified, it'll get stamped with the date and time it was modified and who did the modifications. So usually on any search window, you'll find these three columns at the end. Alright, now, pretty self-explanatory, but we'll go over actually deleting the machine. But before we do, there's one other thing I'd like to show you. When you're in the edit window, either you're adding or changing an existing machine, if you change something, and then say the doorbell rings and you walk away for a while, then you come back to your software and you're not exactly sure what you were doing. You don't remember if you really saved anything or not. But if you go to exit out of this window, either cancel this or exit out with the X up here, the software knows that you've made a change, and it will prompt you if you try to close the window, and it will prompt you whether or not you want to make those changes. So if you go ahead and say yes, it'll go ahead and save those. If you say no, then it won't save those, and it'll go ahead and close the window anyway. If you say cancel, it'll keep the window open so that you can go back to your data and see if there's anything that you'd like to modify or change differently. We're going to go ahead and say yes, save this. So it goes ahead and saves it, and since it was our active indicator that flipped, now our active indicator is back to yes. Okay, so essentially those are the only steps that you need to do to start building your list of machines and create that list. So use that add machine button, add that information. If it's something that you don't like, go back in and edit it and make that correction. And if you want to get rid of the machine entirely and you just want to maybe start over or just get rid of it, that's where you can use the delete button. You go ahead and delete that. It'll prompt you and make sure that you want to delete it, and then you say yes. Deleting a machine removes it from your cloud. Also, any history that was connected to that machine, if there was service history that was connected to that, that will be erased as well. If you have a card reader in that machine, and you had data that was loaded from your card reader into Toucan, when you delete the machine, it does not delete the card data, but it will unlink that data from the machine. So the e-data from the card reader remains in your software, it just gets unlinked from that machine when that machine gets deleted. We're going to go ahead and say yes, and then that disappears from our list. So, pretty easy and intuitive to add machines, edit those machines, and delete those machines from your cloud software. Appreciate your attention and look forward to speaking with you again for another video in this training series. Thank you.